മന്ദിര സൗഭഗമേതിന് തുരൈതകു വിതവികെങ്ക പാടിന
Welcome, Swagatam, Namaskar. A little more than 2 years ago, my colleagues on the managing committee of the India chapter of the IAA and I started discussing the various routes we could possibly take to create an overarching theme for this Congress. We were advised by the Governing Council to consider something that was global in appeal and yet intrinsically Indian in spirit. That is where Dharma crept into our theme-building consciousness. My Indian friends here are aware that Dharma, although having multiple meanings in Hinduism, Buddhism and Jainism, essentially encompasses ideas such as duty, rights, character, customs, and all behavior considered correct and morally upright in society. Meanwhile, like all other professions, marketing, advertising, and media practices too have been facing an onslaught of technological developments. With algorithms, communities, and engagement threatening our business models, bringing about radical changes in the way we run our business is no longer an option. It is hygiene. Growing consumerism is increasingly witnessing a growing cynicism about the corporate sector as a whole. And today, consumers have social media to vent their feelings. Therefore, becoming a good citizen brand is not an alternative but a necessity for good business. Digital technology, by its very nature, keeps pushing the boundaries of faster, cheaper, and better. While faster and cheaper are quantifiable, it is the better that gets into the realm of subjectivity and therefore debatable. Better for whom? The manufacturer, the consumer, the community? For whom? And therein takes birth our theme, Brand Dharma, Tech for Good.
Brand Dharma means Brand Dharma, not Brand Dharma. A brand promoted as a doctrine or a philosophy, as the usage of the word Dharma would connote, makes it seem like a shadow doctrine. It seems incorrect to me. A code of conduct of a single doctrine, when it is addressed as a plurality, is called its Dharma. Brand Dharma is surely not a single doctrine, simply because each brand has its own house rules. So for the purpose of this address, I prefer to say Brand Dharma. Dharma is a larger canvas than Dharma. It is not limited to a single philosophy. But that is easier said than done. I find myself in a unique position on the subject of Brand Dharma. Brand Dharma. Brand ka Dharma. The term of a brand. Where Dharma is the code of conduct, the performance, the vision, objectives, ethics, values of a brand. where the brand represents products and services like food products, consumer durables, etc. Or brand dharma, brand dharmaka, the brand of a dharma, where the brand represents a belief system called dharma, where the vision, mission, objectives, performance of the company's belief system are the brand. The associated products and services are only economic activities, like those of, say, Reliance, Tata's, Patanjali, etc. For example, personally, I'm not sure if branding is the placement of my person or the placement of the products. I cannot say when I'm the brand or when a product is the brand. I do not know where one begins and gives way to the other. But the evidence of this phenomenon of brands is right there in and around us. As of date, my voice and face appear on at least 24 products, from waterproofing to rice, agarbatti, jewelry, mobile phone, DTH, television, hair oil, scooter, medicines, and many others. I do not advertise alcohol, tobacco products, and such like. That is my dharma. Not doing their ads is my way of saying, this is my dharma. But I'm also glad and happy in reflecting that although my dharma cannot prevent a product from existing in the market, brands themselves are now exercising their dharma by declaring the hazards of their products in the advertisements as well as in the packaging. I see this as a sign of a healthy market, one unintended, of course, driven by a righteous brand. Now, all this may sound as being unnecessarily loquacious from an uneducated brag, but I do hope you will pardon my impertinence. I am simply thinking aloud, and if I may miss the mark, please, I seek forgiveness. I am not a master of this craft, of selling and marketing brands. Far from the mastery, you can't even sell a bottle of drinking water to a thirsty person without your ingenious scripts. Left to myself, I am more likely to give away a bottle of water free and hope to see some signs of gratitude, which doesn't quite work in the real market, as you know. I do not call myself an advertiser. I have the credentials to call myself that. Before anything else, I am a poet's son. I'm inclined to give away the worth of my offering in exchange of a word of genuine appreciation. Your admiration of my work is my profit. Now, if any commerce results from my work, I have only to thank and credit it to the ingenuity of investors, makers, advertisers who are able to translate the value of my voice and face into real worth. Believe me, no one is more surprised than I when I'm told that the product is selling because I'm presenting it. It sounds to me like crediting a rooster for the sunshine or the sunrise. Having said that, I must admit that there has been that odd occasion when it has worked. I remember the Cadbury campaign. Sales had dropped drastically due to the presence of elements in the product, and the sales rose substantially after I was employed to be a part of a rather aggressive ad campaign. Why only products? Even in public interest campaigns like the polio eradication campaign, which was spearheaded by nationwide advertisements, the results were very heartening. India, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, is now polio-free. At the August offices of the United Nations in New York, they were giving me a declaration on the success of the polio campaign. It was revealed that when they asked a lady in one of the villages of India why she had shied away from the dosage to her child earlier and now submitted to it, she said, you know, when I heard Mr. Bachchan getting upset and angry, I got scared and quickly administered the medicine to my child. It was the designing by O&M and Piyush Pandey, who is here today with us, of a rather presumptuous epithet attributed to me of the angry young man. An image that I had been carrying for more than 3 decades, which seemed to have done the trick. But I'm digressing. To get back to the subject, consider an example. If I were to sell a leaf of neem a leaf of aloe vera or a leaf of tulsi. It would only be another herb which is commonly used in many households. They will say, this leaf can do wonders, try it for this, and this. Or, boys and girls, please try this leaf. I am told by reliable sources that pimples pop like soap bubbles when they sense this leaf within a whiffing distance, things like that. That wouldn't be branding, honestly. That could be generic information shared with everyone for the benefit of all. But if you package the leaves in tubes and give them names and pay the appropriate GST, then I think it is a brand. I'm not an advertising guru. I do not know how branding works. I cannot say exactly how it creates buying pressure on the target audience, but it does work. I can say this much. I have noticed it myself. I have a significant number of followers on social media, and I find that a good word and a message, a genuine concern, goes a long way in today's world of rapid communication. The results may not be visible in a sense, nor may a word on the social media be a great asset for opinion building, like the traditional media, but the focus that can be claimed to a specific object or subject through the social media is undeniable. Social media may not be news, and you especially Mr. Anupuri here. Social media may not be news, and best not to elaborate on that for fear of obvious controversy, but it is certainly a call to attention. It works for good. I share what I can, and in turn, I receive from millions. Perhaps I should also share some folk truths about advertising that amaze me. In the past, when there was no radio, TV, and internet, there were spots in marketplaces where people of immense thrift and enterprise auctioned goods at the top of their voices. It sounded more like several horns blowing in the air all at once. The open market worked so fast that an unsuspecting bystander in the crowd, just staring around for a while, would often be surprised to find himself in possession of something he didn't need. You will still find some alcoves like that on the old streets of Mumbai where before you know what is happening, you find yourself in possession of a spacesuit, a parachute, and possibly a shipping aid. You never know how you ended up buying the stuff. You remember a few minutes too late that you live on the 14th floor of a housing colony in the suburb, but you're already loaded with the stuff. So it baffles me endlessly. I mean, how does this work? I'm sure some of you are able to give that answer. The customer is king, say some intelligent advertisers, and rightly so. But that is where the metaphor ends. The sheer magic of advertising makes this sentimental king buy things which he never needed. So how do you do that? I can understand the eagerness of advertisers to become the most preferred providers of their products and services. That is pretty fair. But advertising seems to go a step further. It creates a demand for goods where there may be no demand to begin with. How do you do that? This is quite astonishing. Add to the task of increasing demand the pressure of research, innovations, inflation, rise and fall of the buying power of the currency, year-on-year growth of income which is expected by investors and stakeholders, and a whole lot of other commercial pressures. How do advertisers deal with that? Is monopoly an answer? No, monopoly can never be a tool to tackle these challenges. Monopoly actually kills the need for advertising. Who would need to advertise if the product has a monopoly? It's like some of the research products in the pharmaceutical industry. They are so unique in their applications that they have no competition. They don't need advertising. The same applies to some fields like medical equipment, space technologies, distribution networks, and many such. Market economics is not about monopolies, quite the contrary. So then is regulation an answer? Can regulation ensure a fair competitive market which will control uncertainties and reduce risks. That's not. Regulation, I presume, cannot create a demand for goods. Regulation cannot ensure growth. This, I feel, is the biggest challenge faced by advertisers. One of sustaining demand and ensuring growth. This is also, I feel, where the ethics of branding faces its biggest existential challenge: competition. What is fair in competition? I noticed that no two brands of similar products advertise the same USP. Each brand highlights something different. I mean, every detergent cannot say we remove the same stains. Each brand adds something unique which is unlike any of the rest. This competition among brands has an intrinsic benefit for the consumer. It puts pressure on each brand to invest in research and development of the products. Every company, be it a manufacturer or a service provider, invests in continual improvement in the quality of its products and professional development of its key staff. There are only two options. Either you grow or you perish. Also, redundant technologies cannot last long in a competitive market, even though the markets are as large and diverse as ours. There was a time when 30 to 50-year-old technologies were dumped in India by nations which did not consider us rich enough for the latest innovations. But the situation is different today. We are now among the countries where multinationals launch their newest products simultaneously to their own markets. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, nowhere is this more evident than the profession I come from, films. Hollywood has in recent times done a simultaneous release of their films, and at times even before their own, compared with earlier years when their films hit the local market after a gap of several months, at times several years. So competition offers more choices and can seek the best value for money. We now have an option to choose from goods and services made in India, to China, to Japan, to Europe, and all the rest of the world. I am particularly impressed and hopeful by the entry and rise of homemade brands in the past few years. Products made locally are competing with the best in the world today in household FMCG as well as industrial technology brands. I think we are at a promising stage in a globalized market, and I hope to see this trend lead us to become world leaders very soon. Competition does have a prevailing influence on various virtues of a brand. For example, the integrity of a brand is the sum of several component features. Primarily the reliable performance of the product, the effectiveness of the leadership, the pride of the stakeholders, and the confidence of the customer. The endurance of a brand is tested by the efficiency of each one of these components. And I think competition keeps them on their toes. However, the question for us is, does competition decide the dharma of a brand? Are the merits of a product enough to meet the sales targets? Or is there more than performance to make the product a best-seller? Should an advertisement tweak the truth about the brand to attract more attention? Does a brand become better or worse if it is promoted by a celebrity? Does a celebrity assure better performance? Does a celebrity guarantee the best in-class quality of a product? I've often been at the receiving end of these questions. And in reality, ladies and gentlemen, I should be the last person to know the answer. Frankly, I don't know. A person buys something trusting my voice and presentation. If he is not happy with the product or service, he writes back to me with some annoyance. Now, that is putting it too mildly. They actually take it to court. And I speak from personal experience. I do not know if this is justified, but that is such as it is. Is a celebrity deserving of such? What is the responsibility of my voice and face in the promotion of an object? What is the code of conduct expected of me by those who trust my ways? And above all, what is the accountability of the brand towards the consumer? Let me try to find a few answers. Correct me if I'm wrong. A brand, I think, is a named product lawfully owned by a person or a company. It represents something unique about the product. Well, I suspect in some cases only the name of the brand seems to be unique, but I guess that is lawful too. And what is the dharma of the brand? I have no clue. The nearest I can guess is that the dharma of the brand is an assurance that the product will perform as is claimed by the label. If it fails to deliver, then it fails its dharma. We cannot treat customers as experimental subjects. Dharma does not permit that. I'm tempted to expand this line of thought to more than a mere product. Dharma, I feel, should have a more inclusive and a comprehensive meaning. When I say, kuch din to guzariye Gujarat mein, I'm not selling Gujarat. When I say, do boon zindagi ke, I'm not selling the vaccine of polio. When I say, Swachh Man, Swachh Tan, Swachh Bharat Mera Parichay, I'm not selling hygiene. The brand here is social justice. Its dharma is its function.
It's a good thing in the past few decades we have these cautions, even for cigarettes or smoking is injurious to health, and all these cautions come out. But, honestly, people don't look at the caution, isn't it? It doesn't make an impact. If it were to make an impact, why would anybody advertise? I think we are moving in a very different direction now. When you come to technology, this is an era of technology. We need technology. But people who create video games, they don't want their kids to play those games. Video games have caused so much violence in the society, in the world. Do you agree with me? Because the young minds don't find the distinction between a virtual shooting and real shooting. Many times crimes occur through these sort of games, video games, and things like that. And today, using too much of social media or iPads and iPhones, kids, their central nervous system is getting badly affected. Their personality is getting affected. So we need to take caution. I think this brand dharma will help here in guiding people to a healthy, happy life, and whatever is needed to take care of the social good or to take care of the health of the society. This brand dharma could give guidelines and help people to steer the society in that direction. It is very necessary today that we need to attend to the aspect, the consciousness that has so many potential. Technology and attending to one's inner consciousness. Developing inner potential as well as moving in science and technology should be the guidelines for the coming generations. So I think you have heard a lot about it today, so I can end this with these few words that I wish you all the best. Today we have made the globe into one village. Technology has united the globe into one village, and advertising has become global with the technology. It's no longer regional. And let us be conscious and be committed ethically, morally to the well-being of human race. Thank you very much.
Thank you all, and it's really wonderful to be here at the IAA World Congress, and happy to be speaking right after lunch. So let me speak about the topic I chose for today was the Aadhaar leapfrog, which is about how India used digital technology to leapfrog on many fronts. It was exactly 10 years back, a decade back, that I was invited by the then Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh to come to Delhi and join the government and implement this project to give 1 billion people a digital identity. Now this was a long way from my office, which is a corner office overlooking a golf course in Bangalore, to leave all that and go to Delhi to see how to give 1 billion people a digital ID. Now you may be wondering, why did we even need to do this? There were really two big reasons for this project to give everyone a digital identity. The first was that in the last 15 years, India was building a welfare state. India was rolling out pensions, scholarships, unemployment insurance, healthcare, and many other benefits, all of which were being funded from the budget, from the government's tax collections, and all of them were meant for individuals. And then they began to realize that the underlying way of identifying a person and making sure that he or she was the right beneficiary was actually becoming difficult because people didn't have any form of identification. Now the reason for this again goes back to the fact that in India our birth registration systems are not really up to par, and in many Indian states more than 50% of the children don't have a birth certificate for a variety of reasons, and therefore you have lots of people growing up without an identity which they can use. And in the old days when people lived their entire life in the same village, it probably didn't matter that they didn't have a birth certificate because everybody could identify them. But in an increasingly mobile world, increasingly aspirational world where people are leaving the village, coming to the cities, people are moving from north to south, from east to west, identity, being able to prove who you are or having an identity becomes very, very important. So the first reason for this project was, if we are going to give billions of dollars of benefits to people, we have to make sure it goes to the right person. So we must have a very unambiguous way of identifying who the person is. So that was the government's desire from the point of view of improving the quality of its distribution of benefits. The second thing was that there were 1 billion people, many of them without an ID. They were going to be mobile, they were moving into big cities, they wanted to open a bank account, get a mobile connection, get a job, get into the train, catch a flight. How do they prove who they are? So these are the two big reasons for the need to create an identity of this type. And the challenge we had was we had millions of people, maybe hundreds of millions of people who didn't have any document to say who they were. And we had to make sure that everybody got only one ID in the new system. And that's why it's called a unique ID. So the challenge is, how do you ensure somebody is unique when you don't have a way of proving who they are? And that's why we came to the conclusion that the only way to establish uniqueness was through what's called as biometric deduplication. In other words, everybody has a unique biometric signature, and no two people have the same biometric signature as long as you have enough data points, and therefore you can establish that somebody is unique. And for the purpose of this project, we established uniqueness in three ways. We looked at fingerprints, we looked at the iris of both the eyes, and we had a photograph. And therefore, between these three things, everybody could be unique. And therefore, we made sure that everybody got only one number. Now, the actual technology to do this is incredibly complex. Just to give you an idea of the scale of what we are doing, if we had 500 million people IDs in our database and 1 million new people entered or enrolled into the system, that was 500 trillion computer matches that had to be done to establish whether the person was unique or not. Because everyone who was enrolled his biometrics had to be compared against all the 500 million we had to see whether he or she had already entered the system under some other name or whatever. And therefore it was a very complex system. It had thousands of computer servers at the back and so on. And it was built at that time very differently. It was built in what is now called, now it's well known, which is open source software. It's the same kind of software which powers Google or Facebook. And using open source software, we could build a system for a population scale of 1 billion people. So we also had to build a system where we could enroll a large number of people very quickly. And therefore our enrollment system was designed for 1.5 million people a day. In other words, 1.5 million people around the country could enroll into the system. And at peak, we had 35,000 enrollment stations where people were enrolling every day. And that's how we were able to reach 600 million people in the first 5 years. And today, the government has 1.2 billion people on this platform. And therefore, it's the world's largest digital ID platform. I had made a commitment when I joined the government that I would be there till we reach 600. We reached 600 in 4.5 years, after which I quit the government, but the project continued. There was a change in government, the project continued, so it kept going forward. Now, why is this so important? And why is it important and why is it that we can do this in India? First, we realize that in some sense, in a country like India, where there's no technology, it's actually an advantage because you can leapfrog. You can straight away go to the latest generation of technology because you don't have the baggage of older systems. And identity was one clear area where we didn't have any baggage because many people didn't have the proper IDs. And therefore we were able to straight away leapfrog into this modern system. And when we designed this system, we designed it for multiple purposes. The first, of course, was to make sure that it would identify yourself and to identify yourself online in a digital way, on the cloud. And we call that an online authentication. This system is designed to do billions of, maybe 100 million authentications a day. And currently, in the last these couple of years, every month, there have been 1 billion authentication, which means 1 billion times somebody went somewhere and gave his number and said, this is to prove who I am. That's the scale of what's happening. It's also the basis for what's called as know your customer. And know your customer is important because when you want to open a bank account, get a mobile connection, get an insurance policy, buy a mutual fund, first question to ask is prove who you are. It's called know your customer. And what we did using the Aadhaar system, we built an electronic know your customer where you can verify and make sure the person is the right person as well as get his basic details in 2 minutes. And using the KYC, it's called eKYC, you're able to open bank accounts and mobile connections rapidly. And in fact, Mr. Mani, who is the chair of the organizing committee here, used this very successfully in Jio because they could enroll millions of customers very quickly using this Aadhaar eKYC.
Today, personalization is possible, it's doable, and I think it's an absolute must for many companies, maybe for most companies. I think what we clearly see is that the new consumers, especially the millennials, less so, I would say, my age group, are really expecting personal information, personal approaches. We also have today the technology to make it work. And for many companies, it's not just an opportunity to achieve competitive advantage, but also it's a must in order to stay relevant. But I do say that there is still a long way to go. And I was traveling to Latvia last year and made a booking of a hotel with booking.com, booking of hotel, and guess what, month by month I still get great offers for hotels in Riga. That's what I really call personalization. Obviously, I've never been back to Riga. And I have no plans going back to Riga anytime soon. Not because it's not a lovely place, but because my travels don't let me there. This is not personalization, it's just, stupid marketing. And I think, we need all to do much better. When we talk about personalization, we should also see that there are enormous investments being made across many, many different clusters to build a personalized data. And we have just looked at the more than 2,000 investments that have been made over the last 4 years in lots of clusters. Of course, in the social media, in arts and leisure, in education, health, in banking, financial services in general, and more than 30 billion of money, disclosed money, has been invested in these many ventures. And everybody tries to focus and be better on personalization. There are lots of opportunities, lots of technologies, lots of things going on, and segment of one marketing really becomes reality for those who really master the art and who really push the frontiers continuously. But there is another side to the personalization issue. There is the issue of privacy. And let me hasten to add privacy and security. I still remember, I think it was 5-6 years ago, I was sitting at a lunch in China and one of the icons of the digital world said, privacy is dead, but security is a big issue. And he said that privacy is dead because people are willing to share everything and are not really worried about what happens to their data. And he was concerned about security because his platform was attacked hundreds of thousands of times every day. But I would like you to really not disconnect those two things of privacy and security, because they are really truly interlinked. And when you think about personalization, you also need to understand there is an enormous need for really observing privacy and to really accept the responsibility also for the security of your customers. Now, of course there are worries. There are worries about privacy and security. We have had the discussion around Facebook and Cambridge Analytics. And we literally have thousands of major hacks every year with literally billions of data sets being stolen. Now, many of those data sets will have no value. But quite some of them have. And then, of course, when we hear about big security issues, we hear about the big companies that have been attacked and maybe even paralyzed for days and weeks. But every day, thousands and thousands of individuals, small firms, are also being hacked and paralyzed and having to pay in bitcoins or other currencies to get their systems released and freed. And so, while of course we do really think about personalization all the time, we also need to look at the other side, and that is privacy and security. Not just because, a lot of the data that we are using and the personalization does not create value for our customers.
We expect that 8.5 billion smartphones will be shipped between the years 2018 and 2022. And with all this activity, it's no surprise the smartphone industry is also an economic powerhouse. According to the IMF, smartphones contributed about 1/6 the estimated growth of global trade in 2017. These benefits have touched every country around the world, including here in India, where estimates for smartphone growth are set to double between 2017 and 2022, reaching over 800 million. India has embraced the revolution, has become a mobile-first entity. When you look at broadband access, you see it's almost entirely wireless. To get a sense of scale here, we're talking about 1.2 billion mobile connections in the country. Today, 90% of all Indians access the internet via mobile device. This drove a 150% increase in 4G data consumption last year alone, making India the fastest growing market for mobile apps. This fast change is a significant opportunity for innovators, entrepreneurs, and marketers who think with a mobile-first perspective when planning their programs, because the mobile evolution is here to stay. This is because the smartphone has become an integral part of our everyday life. Imagine your life without a smartphone. According to our research, 90% of you reach for your smartphone within an hour after waking up. And I think for most of us on any given business day, that's probably more like 5 minutes. In addition to this research, 50% of you said you'd rather give up dining out for a year before you part with your smartphone. Clearly, the scale and reach of the smartphone brings value to our lives that goes far beyond data and communications, and Qualcomm has played a huge part of that. Qualcomm has brought technologies to the industry, that allows you to connect your phone to the internet 24/7. We support App Store operations, enable and enhance video streaming, increase photo and audio quality, and we also power facial recognition technologies and fingerprint recognition technologies, all with remarkable power management and battery efficiency. These technologies have made it possible for the smartphone to replace many other devices, from cameras to gaming platforms to media players. And more it has meant that smartphones hold our personal information as well, including health information, financial information, and identification. And while we're certainly grateful that the technologies that we had to invest in years and years ago have been brought to the forefront and made integral to your everyday life, we couldn't have imagined all of these applications. And going forward, we predict that 60% of every man, woman, and child will have a smartphone by the year 2021. They continue to democratize access to information around the world in a powerful way, while giving global consumers more of what they want every day.
The subject of brand trust in what I call a VUCA world. I'll explain to you over the next 20-25 minutes what a VUCA world means and what it means for brand marketers as well as consumers. So, first up, what am I going to cover for you? I will now signal to you that digital is now mainstream. It is not an add-on. Digital is absolutely the mainstream in all communication that we are having with consumers, rather all the engagement with consumers. I'll give you the context of digital and how it has changed and shaped consumer behavior. Then we'll talk about examples over the last 2 years of what I have seen big brands make big mistakes. So I have about 8 examples of great brands. I've only taken international brands so that we can take an easy laugh at them. And then I will summarize for you the lessons that I have learned through my experience in digital, building brands, and the experience of these brands which have made mistakes. So first, 2019 is a very special year. For the first time, half the population of the world is on the internet. 51% of the world is on the internet this year. If I take out the 140 million people who are in the 0 to 5 age band, that number goes to 60% of population being on the internet. 36% of the world population is on social media. If I take out the 0 to 5 population, that number goes to 44%. So, social as well as the internet are omnipresent across the world, whether you're a consumer, whether you're a brand marketer. That's the first thing I want to say, an absolute historic thing. Let's look at how big is digital today. Most people, when they think of digital, they think of it as being in the sideways. Let's look at global advertising. If you look at global advertising, digital is $335 billion today, which is 46% of all advertising in the world. If that is not mainstream, I don't know what is. So 46% of all advertising spent globally today is digital. It's been growing at double digit for the last 6 years. It's gone from a salience of 31.5 to a salience of 46 today. In the next 2-3 years, I expect it to be closer to 50 or 60. Now, how does India fare? India is slightly lesser, but the trend line is roughly similar. If you look at the India number, India has $10.2 billion spent this year overall advertising. 2.14 out of that is digital. 2.4 is print. TV is still the dominant medium. So, in the next 2 years, the digital medium will be number 2 in India. This is 2019 data. When we talk of trust, in the pre-industrial revolution, you trusted the retailer or the middleman. We went, we talked to the middleman, we bought products from the middleman, we trusted whatever he told us about the product that he was selling us. Why did we do that? Because there were no brands. Then the concept of the brand came in, which was an economic exchange or value exchange between the consumer and the brand owner. That's what happened to us. It became an economic exercise. That's what happened to us pre-industrial revolution. We trusted the retailer, and then we started trusting the brand. We trusted the brand primarily on account of quality because we had poor experience with the commodity before that. That's what happened. In the digital world, consumers are more aware, more cynical, and more distrusting. When you have too much information, you have too much skepticism. That's true in organizations, that's true in society. Excess information leads to excess skepticism. That's exactly what's happened with consumers and marketers. So, what is this trust about and where is it going? If you look at 80% of the countries surveyed, 80% of the countries surveyed by Edelman every year, media is distrusted in 80% of the countries. So now, whom do consumers trust? Because media was the guardian whom they trusted. They trusted their family, they trusted their employer, but most of all they trusted media to tell them the truth. If in 80% of the countries they believe that media cannot be trusted, now whom do they trust? So we ask that question and this is the answer. What advertising sources do you trust? People like myself, sources I know, consumer opinion. This is what people tell us to do. Why? They do not believe that brands tell them the truth. They do not believe that people in authority tell them the truth. They believe that people like themselves tell them the truth. The average of people liking something and the average of people disliking something, in totality people say, I can trust that opinion over anybody else's. So this is what people trust today, which is people like me. Social media. Very important. Facebook has enormous reach. More than 2 billion people on the planet today are on Facebook. Absolutely enormous reach. Twitter has rapid build-up. If you want anything, any news to be flashed within 48 hours, Twitter is your source. LinkedIn is absolutely fabulous for business linkages. I'm on LinkedIn and I'm absolutely amazed to see when people put their profiles looking for jobs, looking for a change. It can't be more open than that. I don't know what their employers think of them when they see that. But people are actually so bold and brave there right now. Instagram is absolute outstanding creative storytelling via a picture. Now think about it. 25 years ago, or in India when television started in 1959, television didn't have so many formats. It had one format. The only thing in television was the screen kept increasing and the resolution and the fidelity of the screen kept improving. But with social media, we have an amazing array of options. I talked about information being freely available. That means that brands know a lot about consumers. It also means consumers know a lot about brands and companies. So both are open books. There are no secrets between the two today. If a consumer truly wants to know what is there in a brand or in a company, he will do that. I remember when I was running Nokia from 2005 for a decade. About the year 2008, suddenly I started getting a flood of mails saying I need this help, that help, this service, etc. Then I asked myself, how come everybody knows my email ID? So then I went to Google and checked. And sure enough, somebody had written there, does anyone know Shiv Kumar's Nokia email ID? And there were 100 people saying, here it is, take it. That's what it is today. If a consumer wants something, he can find it out. That's not a problem at all. So, where is trust going to come and what do brands need to do? Brands have always thought of their board as being stakeholders, as their shareholders being stakeholders. In a digital world, society is your stakeholder. It is not your board, it is not your shareholders. You have to serve them, absolutely no doubt about it. But society is a larger stakeholder than anything else in a digital world. That is what we are learning repeatedly. So if you need to build trust, you need to build trust in society, not just a narrow band of society. So, every day businesses face what we call a VUCA world. I believe every day brands face what I call a DUCA world. It's my expression, a short form to tell you the kind of challenge we have in the digital space. So what does DUCA stand for? This is my acronym, my logic, my IPR I'm putting out for you. DUCA stands for digitally unacceptable content and attitude. Digitally unaccepted content and attitude. Looks simple. Let's look at all the examples of people who have actually lived this and what's happened to them. In the 1980s, we used to celebrate a brand called Benetton. We used to say Benetton has outstanding advertising, which is messaging for society. A few months ago, this is what they did in digital. They said Benetton, they were advertising for kids, boys in the age group 3 to 7, and they put a cheeky headline, which they thought was very funny, saying no girls allowed. They got slammed. Why did they get slammed? People said, hey Benetton, wake up. This is a world where we are appreciating gender diversity. And you are trying to go back in time. Some comments said you are living in the 1980s. It's high time you woke up. Within 48 hours, Benetton had to say sorry and pull back. Next example, the high priest of fashion, Dolce & Gabbana. Stefano Gabbana did this. They released the shoe and they said this shoe is for I am thin and gorgeous. Social media. Dolce & Gabbana co-founder. So somebody tweeted back and replied back to him saying, are you saying that now you are making shoes by body mass index? So this shoe is not for people who are not thin and this thing? Worse, Stefano Gabbana insulted them on Twitter, saying you are idiots, you are morons, you don't know, etc., etc. Again, there was a complete backlash. Again, within 48 hours, they had to take it back. A few months ago, all of us watched the World Cup. Sometimes you wonder how companies can even think in a bizarre way. Okay? Burger King has always been a good brand doing outstanding work. This is from Russia. Russia beat Saudi Arabia 5-0 on day 1 of the World Cup. Then Burger King advertised saying, hey Russian women, please go date a World Cup or a football personality, have sex with him, produce a baby. If you produce a baby, we'll give you 3 million rubles and whoppers for life. Amazing how anybody can do it in this day and age. Not surprisingly, this promo and advertising got slammed within 48 hours. They said this will build the future of Russian football. That's called talent management, right, in HR terms. Okay, the future of football. Future of Russian football we are securing. Outstanding. Sure enough, they got slammed. Within 48 hours, they had to pull the plug, both on the promotion and the advertising. Both. Let's look at somebody else. Splenda. A number of you don't have sugar with your tea and coffee, you have Splenda. Look at this bizarre example from Splenda a few months ago. They say fact Food safety authorities around the world have proven Splenda is safe. In the same ad on social media, these guys say, don't believe everything you read on social media. You can't be more stupid than this. This is the height of stupidity. Now, this is what happens in social media because you think you're being very funny, you think you're being very cute. That's one of my lessons. You think it's a quick medium, let me score a hit with some quick pun or whatever it is. If you are saying don't believe anything which is on social media, why should they believe you, Splenda? The dream of every brand manager is to show his factory. To show his factory in advertising and say, that's my factory, what a wonderful factory. Okay, Schlitz beer said that many years ago when Claude Hopkins said, it's washed with steam water. So, one of the fashion brands took it literally and went to their factory. Unfortunately, garment factories are very different from other factories. This is the end result on Instagram. So, Reformation is the brand, the luxury brand. They show their Goa dress in the factory. What is in the factory? A seamstress stitching a button at the back. Here's a luxury brand worth hundreds of dollars. And people turned back and said, that's a poor lady working in a third world country who is making $2 and you are selling something which is $200, $300. Isn't the inequality of this whole thing so stark? How can you even be doing this? So, in social media, in Instagram, the lesson is optics matter. This contrast is not something that society can bear, which is the point I made about the stakeholder being society. The ultimate one of all is Snapchat. What did Snapchat do? Rihanna was dating Chris Brown and they had a bust-up. Chris Brown punched Rihanna on the nose. So Snapchat thought, let's run a funny series called Would You Rather? Would you rather slap Rihanna or would you rather punch Chris Brown? And they ran a series of that. Rihanna replied to that saying, are you saying that you stand by family abuse? Is that okay by you? And I know a number of people who are getting off Snapchat. Snapchat lost $800 million in market value in under 24 hours. Now the size of the company is nothing, small company. I try to put that in perspective for you. When Volkswagen had their emission problem, they lost $18 billion of market cap. When Toyota had the problem going for number one, they lost $25 billion in market cap. And here's this tiny company which loses $800 million in market cap over a silly promotion. So, silly work on social media can cost you and your company a lot of value. Next, the other great passion for brand managers and marketers is have a picture with my brand, with my packaging, take a selfie with my product, send it to me, I'll give you a reward. All the brands are doing it right now. Take it with my packaging, take it at a particular place where it is sold, take it consuming it, but send me a picture, a selfie with you and my brand. Okay? A lot of people are doing this. This is what Lockheed Martin did. Lockheed Martin is the world's largest supplier of arms, which means guns, pistols, rockets, etc., bombs. So they also thought, hey, take a picture with any one of our products and send it to us. Okay, imagine taking a gun and taking a picture. Wow, what a fantastic Lockheed, huh? I'm with you. So picture of guns. At the end of the 48th hour, somebody sent a picture of a piece of a bomb which was found in a school in Yemen. That's all. A piece of a bomb which was Lockheed Martin product found in a school in Yemen. 49th hour, they will do that. Go back to what I said, society. You are celebrating your product used in war, creates destruction, kills young kids. Got to be careful. Okay, so you have to be extremely sensitive about it. The world's richest man has his own set of troubles right now as we read in the newspapers. But he had some trouble a few months ago, April of last year. April of last year, he went on a dog sledding holiday in Norway, and that's what he posted. Dog sledding about the Arctic Circle in Norway. Jim Lovell says it's not that you go to heaven when you die, but you go to heaven when you're born. Earth is the best planet in our solar system. Innocuous looking one, right? That's what you would think. World's richest man. A lot of people reacted saying, you know what? The average person doesn't go to Norway for a holiday. Why are you gloating about it? And then the next volley of comments said, I'm not sure you know Mr. Bezos, but a number of your employees working in Amazon live off food stamps. Okay? If you do it, the good news at least is, by October, Amazon raised the minimum salary to $15 an hour, which is what Bernie Sanders promised yesterday when he announced his presidential nomination. So at least the benefit of this gap was that at least Amazon employees benefited through a minimum salary. I then looked at Indian work, and let's look at Indian work. Let's look at digital films. What are the top 3 liked digital films in India, and what are the 3 least liked in India over the last 1 year, 18? The top liked one is Samsonite Kerala is Open. Kerala was ravaged by floods. Okay, lovely ad for Samsonite, really brought back Kerala, outstanding ad. Amitabh Khan tweeted it, Virat Kohli tweeted it, Amitabh Bachchan tweeted it, everybody under the sun tweeted this ad. It's a great film, very emotional, very touching. Number 2 was Samsung. Number 3 was Brilliant Moments, 20 Years of Hyundai. At the bottom, the least 3 liked, Fortis Healthcare, which was about organ donation, a tough topic, not easy, tough topic, not received well. Johnson's Baby, I believe the Johnson's hip replacement products would have had a say in that. That's my guess, but I can't validate that. And Google, we think Google knows a lot about us, but clearly the marketeers don't know much about consumers, which is good. Okay, so that's where they are. So they finished third there, third at the bottom. These were digital films, top liked and least liked. When everybody started using digital a few years ago, television was formatted by 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. When we tried digital format films, our first film in PepsiCo was a 9-minute film. And everybody said nobody will watch 9 minutes. It was about going home for Diwali. We got an amazing response by running a 9-minute film. So my big lesson is, if you have a story to tell in digital, length does not matter. People are willing to stick to you. The key is telling the story right.